Good morning.
Good morning, Emma. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everybody. I'm seeing some familiar faces in the list this month.
Have you? Yeah. Let's just let it populate a little bit. How are you this morning?
Yes, very good. Thank you. The sun's shining. How are
I
you?
know it is. Yeah, I've just switched my desk from the other way around because the sun's the other
The
way. So
sun's direct in your face. It
absolutely, yeah. So it's a novelty, but
is.
it's a good one at that, though, isn't it? Spring is
Mm,
here, isn't it? Fully.
very much so.
It's still cold though. So I had to de-ice my car this morning, but
Same, same.
hopefully that's good. That won't happen for too much longer. But welcome everybody. Thanks to for everyone for joining, and welcome to another HubSpot Masterclass with me, Andy Gibbons, and Emma Ablewhite as well. Today, as you can see on screen, we are going to talk about how to get more from HubSpot with integrations and connecting apps. Probably one of our longest titles, I think that is.
Yeah, I think so. It's
It's a
not
bit of a,
catchy, is
yeah,
it?
it's not catchy. We need to work on that. But this is obviously everyone that is on this call today may have HubSpot already, may be considering purchasing HubSpot. It is a huge platform. HubSpot is okay, but not only that, it also has a vast library of apps, tools that you can connect with your business, connect with HubSpot, integrate in all areas of your business, whether that's customer service, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, um, and so much more as well. So I did a quick count up this morning. I didn't count every individual one. I got a list, but there are almost 2,000 apps on the
hmm
HubSpot app library at the moment. Okay, we have around about 30 minutes this morning. Okay. So um, I think you can probably all agree we're not going to be going through every individual app today. Okay.
I'd be
Um,
here a long time.
absolutely. Yeah. So as I said, we're going to be finishing at about 11 o'clock this morning. Okay. So there's lots to go through. So I don't want to hang around too much. But I want to just start really just by giving you all a little bit of a background on JDR, who we are as a business. We are a business coaching company originally. We've been established over 20 years now and been working with HubSpot for 12, 13 years now. I've used it every day in that period as well. And we've been partners with HubSpot for just over 10 years now also. We're now one of their elite partners, which means we're in the top 1% of their partners globally. And there's three ways in which we primarily help businesses, whether that's with setup and onboarding and implementation. Some people that might be on the call this morning are going through that at the moment, might be considering it, may have even been through it with us before as well. So if you're buying HubSpot, it's one of the prerequisites that you have to have someone to help set it up. You can do that directly with HubSpot, or you can work with a partner like JDR. For also as well, we do a lot of HubSpot training and consultancy work. So if you've got HubSpot, maybe you've been through the onboarding process, maybe you did it yourself, but feel that you're not getting the most out of it. Okay, we can really help in those areas as well. But our day to day is we are an inbound marketing agency. Okay, so what we do is we use HubSpot to underpin our marketing services. We are an outsourced marketing department for small to medium sized businesses where we can not only help create your strategy, but we've got the resources in house, as you can see here, to help execute them. And we've got just shy of around 40 people that work with us now, all skilled in their own various disciplines as well. So if you would like to talk about any of these three areas, okay, what I am going to do is I am going to pop a link in the chat to my diary. And what you can do is you can set up a call with me. And I'm more than happy to talk about those three areas with you as well. Okay. I've just done that now. What I also wanted to say why I'm on the subject is it'd be good to check that that chat is live and everyone can
Mm.
see that. So if anyone can just respond, I think that a good way to start this is one of the, and Emma will talk about this when I hand over to her shortly, but a good thing to check is whether you have one of the probably unknown hubs, and one that we don't really cover is what we call operations hub. Okay. So
Mm.
what you'll find with a lot of these integrations and apps and things like that you have to sync up is you need an operations hub license. Starter, I think, is probably where most of them lie under. So I
Yeah.
just want to ask everybody whether they have operations hub starter or above, whether they have it or they don't know. I think that's probably just a fair assessment, just so we can get a little bit of a lay of the land and
Mm.
see where everyone is at, just so we know what we're working with this morning. I'm going to stop my share, hand over to you, and hopefully
Jump in.
we will see. So Paul doesn't have Ops Hub. I emailed you this morning, by the way, Paul. Hope you got it.
Mhm. Fantastic. Yeah. So, like Andy said, for some of the integrations, you are going to need Ops Hub Starter, which is a really cheap add-on to HubSpot. I think it's
Mm,
something like 15, £16 a month or something. It's not one of the expensive hubs, maybe 20. It's changing.
yeah.
It's not always needed for all of the apps and all of the different integrations, but it is needed for some of the data sync ones. So I'll cover in a bit more detail exactly what that looks like, but you're not going to need it for everything, but it means you can just do a little bit more if you need to. So when we talk about integrating apps with HubSpot, this visual is always the one that comes to mind. And I think this backs up what Andy was saying, where there are a lot of apps that you can connect to HubSpot. This is a good portion of them. This was published in January 22, so there's probably even more than this now available because there's constantly new ones being added. We're not going to be able to answer detailed questions on every single one of these individual apps. What I want to be able to do today is to help you know how to understand if the app that you're wanting to connect or the other platform that you're wanting to connect is possible to connect with HubSpot and what's possible. So what I'm hoping is to give you guys the information on how to work that out for yourselves. So that's kind of where we're going to go today. You might recognize some of the various apps on here, and you can see they're in so many different categories across the board of what HubSpot can do, from webinar software like we're doing today. We integrate Zoom webinars to get you all the links, to CMS software, to sales, to video, to call centers, to e-commerce, to other live chats. There's so many different areas where you can bring things onto HubSpot. The way HubSpot always phrased this is HubSpot was never designed to be an all-in-one platform, but it is designed to be an all-on-one platform. So you can get everything onto HubSpot, even if it isn't doing everything itself. I think that's a good way of thinking about it. So there are three main types of integrations that we're going to run through today in a little bit of detail. The first one is native app integrations, which is going to be things like Zoom, DocuSign, Slack. Second one is data sync integrations, where you want that flow of data between platforms, things like Xero, Salesforce, Shopify. And then the final option is to go fully bespoke API, get it to do exactly what you want it to do. And we'll go into a little bit of what that can look like as well, and where that is a good option for you. With bespoke API integrations, anything is possible. Literally anything is possible. The question is always, should we do it rather than can we do it with that? So we'll go into that a little bit as well.
Please, no technical questions as well. We don't have
We're not
our lead developer.
developers.
Yeah, we don't have our lead developer on this call today. So
We'll do our best though. We'll do
yes,
our best. Okay. With native app integrations, then, this is essentially any integration where you will want to enable specific functionality, either within an app from HubSpot or from an app within HubSpot. So that might be things like sending Slack notifications via HubSpot, or getting a DocuSign document populated with HubSpot information, or bringing your Canva files over into HubSpot. So it's anything where you've got a piece of software that's doing something and you want to be able to do that something within HubSpot. It's not about transferring data, it's about the functionality there. And for most of these, you are just going to be able to find those on the HubSpot app marketplace. So if I show you that within your HubSpot account, let me just bring it over.
I'm
The
going to
top,
put a link to everyone in the chat to the Marketplace library as well,
fantastic.
so
Thank
everyone
you.
can have a look in their own
So
time, I
yeah,
guess.
all you'll need to do is come up into the little marketplace here, come into the apps, and you'll come to this library here. You can see 1,852 apps in here. And you can do a simple search on here and see if the tool you're hoping to integrate is possible to integrate through this. Now, with these apps on the marketplace, they will do what they will do and not much more, it's fair to say. Um, you don't have a ton of flexibility in terms of tweaking what this integration does or adding additional functionality or using it in a different way. They do exactly what they say they're going to do. So the best way to know if this is going to work for what you want it to do, first of all, is to check if it's even there on the app marketplace, and then read the integration page in a good amount of detail. So you want to be going into the integration page. We'll use this one as an example and reading through what all of these various different features are. If you're hoping this is going to do something and it's not listed in these features, the chances are it's not going to do that specific
Mm.
thing that you want it to do, because these pages are really in depth. They're all approved by HubSpot when these pages are kind of put on the app marketplace. So this will tell you exactly what's going to be possible within it. That's the single biggest thing that I do if someone asks me if something can integrate, is I just read this page. And that gives you an awful lot of detail as to what it's going to do. The other thing that I would always recommend doing is checking how many downloads it has. You can see this one here has 26,000 installs. It's even telling me that it's quite popular here with companies in the United Kingdom. Sometimes you will look at one and it's only had 10 installs or less than 10 installs. Generally, that's a sign that it's not going to be as robust as one that's had a lot more, and that you might have some more issues with it. Or it might just mean that you're using a very, very niche bit of software as well. But I always like to check if lots of people are using it, chances are it's probably going to work fairly well for what I want it to do. There's also reviews of all of these apps on the marketplace. So if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you get a ton of different reviews and you can start understanding what issues people might be having with it, how people are using it, and generally what people are thinking about it. So that can be really useful as well for getting a better picture of what that might look like. You also want to check the direction of the shared data. So down here, you can see that this is a two-way sync between your CMS files and your Canva designs, which is great. That means that it's going to go both ways. If there's just a single arrow there, that means it's just going a single way. You also want to check which HubSpot tools it integrates with. So it specifically says down here exactly which tools within HubSpot this app is going to integrate with. You can see the various different marketing tools here that it's going to integrate with. It's not going to do anything outside of these tools. So again, that's a really good way of understanding, is that something that's going to work for me or not? And then finally, everything on here as well is also going to have a setup guide. And this is going to be a really in-depth set of instructions on how to set this up and what to expect from it. So I would always read through that as the first step when you're trying to integrate a new app or a new platform into HubSpot. Okay, that is app integrations then. And for most of these app integrations, you aren't going to need any version of Operations Hub. For the most part, these will just work within the functionality of whatever hubs you have on HubSpot. There's some specific cases where you'll need a Sales Pro license or something like that to be able to access all of the features, or a Marketing Pro license. But in general, you'll be able to use these apps alongside the tools that you've got in HubSpot. You wouldn't need Operations Hub for this.
Yeah. Dia's asked, could we share which app integrations have been most useful to us? I think it'd be good because we've just gone through the native stuff. If we just focus on the native ones for now, we'll come back as we go along which ones that we've utilized. The most popular native app is used by everybody is Gmail.
Yeah.
It's had, I think, something nearly 500,000 installs.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're Google partners, so we use Google for pretty much everything. Google Calendar is another native app that we
Yeah.
integrate as well. And I would say I think WordPress is the third one as
Yeah,
well. So, but our website's built in HubSpot, so we don't use that. But we did have that
that
five,
integration previously.
five,
Yeah.
6 years ago. So they're probably the ones that I would say are most useful from a native integration. Zoom as well, with the webinars that we're on this
Mm,
morning. We use Revenue Accelerator as well to log client meetings, which integrates really well. Any kind of our sort of we don't use DocuSign as such. We use another tool called PandaDoc, which works really well for us as
mm,
a business. And I think they're probably the main ones. There's sort of web
yeah.
analysis tools like CallRail that we use to track phone calls when people ring on our website, and Lucky Orange to record people's experiences on our website. I think that's pretty much, they're the
I
main
think
ones,
so.
aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, for us, definitely. I think with the app integrations, the place to start is what are the software you're currently
Mm,
using. We can definitely make recommendations, and all of those ones that Andy's mentioned, I completely agree with. But actually, the best and most useful ones for you are going to be the tools that you're already using in
yeah.
your business. That would always be where I would begin with this. Is kind of bringing together everything you're already doing before looking to add any new tools and software in. Fantastic. Okay, moving on to data sync integrations then. Now, to do a native data sync integration, you're going to be looking at a tool that is designed to pull data to and fro between two systems. So that might be that your CRM is housed somewhere different to HubSpot and you're just using it for your marketing, in which case you might want to link up with a separate CRM system. It might be that you have an e-commerce website in something like Shopify or WooCommerce that you want to connect together. It might be to do with your accountancy platform, or it might be ERP software, something like that. These data sync integrations pull that data to and from between your two systems and are designed to sync up essentially your contacts, your companies, your deals, the kind of records within HubSpot. Now, for the native data sync integrations, you will need an operations starter license to do the fundamentals of this, and you will need an operations professional license if you want to go into this in a little bit more detail with some of them and do it in a slightly more bespoke way. For most of them, starter will get you what you need as a basic integration there.
It's more like the custom field mappings, I think, is the professional hub for
Yes,
operations hub,
it
isn't it?
is. Yeah. And these are quite similar in terms of how to know if they're going to work for your requirements. Specifically, these ones will say data sync on them. So if I come back to the app marketplace and we'll use, let's use Zero as an example, you can see this Zero one here specifically says that it's a data sync app there. So if I click into this one, I know that this is a data sync one, and I'm probably going to need operations starter for this. Again, this is developed by HubSpot. All of these data sync ones, this was a fairly new thing that they did, and it allows for that transfer there. Again, you're going to want to be checking the downloads, the reviews, the direction of the shared data is particularly important on this
Yeah.
one. You can see here, for instance, that invoices is only going from Zero to HubSpot, not the other way around. So things like that are really, really key in this because you can't change the functionality of that. If you wanted it to go the other way around, you're not going to be able to go this route for this one. The other thing that's really important for these is to check if the standard mappings will work for you or if you need any custom ones. So you can actually pop these open in a little bit more detail and check that you want this primary person first name in this example to sync over to your first name field in HubSpot. It does also tell you if you want additional fields where those custom field mappings will be needed. You are a little bit limited in the defaults, but if you want something fairly simple, this is going to allow you to do that. If you just want to copy over like the names and the email addresses to where they kind of logically sit, that's what this is going to enable you to do there. So checking those mappings is really, really important there. And like I say, if you need anything more custom, it is possible within these to map additional fields and fields that you may have set up bespoke in your secondary platform. But you are going to need the Operations Hub Professional to pull those over in any more detail. You also, and this is one that I get asked about a lot, is you want to check how you're using the objects mentioned. So right here, this is syncing over what Zero calls items into what HubSpot calls products. You want to make sure that whatever you've got against that in Zero, against items in this example, is the same as what you would want against products. I've had examples where people are storing contacts against accounts, and the data sync is trying to sync accounts to companies instead. So that's where these can start to get a little bit confusing and a little bit messy, I would say. You want to check that you're using this in the way that the data sync is set up for you to be using it. Otherwise, you are going to need to look at doing something a little bit more flexible and bespoke there.
Guy has just asked, by the way, this is you can do this. Is there a filter? I see there is a filter which shows which apps are compatible with my plan. Oh no, it's not a
Yeah,
question. I thought he was asking, is there one? Yeah, but
there
yeah, you've
is
seen
one.
it, and there is, yeah. So
Yeah, down on this right-hand side here, it will tell you whether it's compatible with your plan or not, essentially. So it will flag that up to you if you're not able to do it because of plan restrictions, essentially. That's a really good point, Guy.
But if you go back to this, just the homepage of the marketplace, just very quickly, and if you scroll on the left-hand side, the compatible HubSpot plan, if you just tick compatible with my plan, so
Yeah,
these are everything that you can have that's inclusive to you,
with you.
essentially.
Yeah, that's
So
a good point. Yeah, fantastic. Okay. The final type of integration that you might be looking at here is what we would call a bespoke API integration. And these are the most complex of the integrations. Essentially, if the platform you want to integrate with isn't on this app library, if it's not one of these almost 2000, but it has what we call an open API, and by that we mean a connection point that the developers can log into. Now, if you don't know if it's got an open API, the best thing to do is to reach out to the support of whatever that platform is and ask them, do you have any API documentation or anything that I could send to some developers? When you're doing one of these integrations, you have to be working with developers. This isn't something that's particularly easy to do yourself. Quite often, the best way of doing these is to have a system sat in the middle, and we call that an iPaaS system, so integration platform as a service. Now, there are more simple ones of those, which you may be able to do yourself. Things like Zapier is the most common one. Make.com is another one that I see quite a lot. Or they can be much more complex, more developer level. We've used one called Illumio in the past that sits in that middle point there. Essentially, what that iPaaS system does is it takes your data from one system, transforms it into data that your second system can read, and vice versa. So it's doing that kind of transformation of the data, changing it around to make it readable to the other system. And that's really important to have that in the middle, rather than you can't very often just plug the two systems into each other. You have to have something that sits in between them to get them to talk to each other. Like I say, that is a more developer level piece of development that you're going to need. That's not something that you'd necessarily be able to set up yourself. Something through Zapier you may be able to, but it can work really, really well if you want something quite bespoke. Nico has asked whether a webhook is a bespoke API, and I would say that webhook sits somewhere in the middle. So on Operations Hub Professional, you can set up workflows that are using webhooks. Now, I'm not a developer, so my understanding of this is not going to be 100%, but my understanding of it is that the webhook essentially sends signals out to something else to get specific information and pull it in. So that can work for some areas of this. But if you're needing that to be a more of a live sync between two systems, that's where you're going to want to do a full API integration there. Webhooks are more for specific data points, as far as I understand it.
yeah, I think they're more event driven
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way of
APIs.
putting it. Yeah. Now, as bespoke API integrations can be quite complex, I would only recommend it if you need a live flow of data between two really key business systems. And if that flow of data is planned to continue into the future, I wouldn't recommend setting up a API integration to just get the data over in the first instance. That would be better to do as a straight migration, pull the data out, put it in. This is only if you need that live or semi-live flow of data between
Mm.
two systems that are going to remain in place.
It's quite common with businesses that use kind of ERP systems
Yeah,
as well. That's probably where
that's the one we see the most,
the
isn't
most
it?
bespoke API integrations is. So if you've got like an SAP SAP,
Mm,
there's loads of them out there, but where you're
order-wise, yeah, that
order-wise, yeah.
sort of thing.
If you've got that kind of sort of big ERP that runs your business, it runs everything. That's where this will come in useful and handy
Yeah,
too.
definitely. Um, or if you've got kind of industry specific software as well.
Mm.
I've worked with a few companies that have very specific to their industry, whether that's legal, whether that's construction. They've got industry specific software that isn't going to have an integration. Sometimes these can be really useful there. However, it's worth saying that we only would recommend these if you've got a budget big enough for a project like this. Doing this kind of bespoke API work is very developer time intensive. So I would never recommend one of these unless it is business critical that that information sits within HubSpot. This isn't something that you just do as a nice to have, I would
Yes.
say. Um, and yeah, I think that that goes across the board for anything where you're having to get into the API, is that they can be fantastic, but only if they are necessary. You don't want to just do this for the sake of doing it. Okay. All
So,
righty.
Guy has just asked, it's what I'm trying to do at present. HubSpot to Zapier to QuickFile, but seeing if I can learn make to create API
Mm,
learning. So my question would be, Zapier is compatible with my plan, but if connecting to an API, does the plan have to have operational hub, or does Zapier take it out of the HubSpot ecosystem?
good question. So for most cases, if you're going to be using Zapier for an integration, you're not going to need Operations Hub.
Mm,
Where Operations Hub is good is if you're trying to do it within HubSpot itself, whether that be through a data sync app or whether that be through something like webhooks that you're trying to do. Zapier itself, as far as I know, should connect to HubSpot. And then if you can connect your other platform into Zapier, you shouldn't then need the Operations Hub as far as I understand it.
yes.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, if there are any other questions, please do pop them in the chat here. Otherwise, Andy, do you want to let people know what our planned topic is for next month's webinar?
Yes. So next month we are going to do a bit of a longer webinar next month. Okay. So like we did in January with myself and Will did, next month we are going to do a full demo of the Sales Hub Professional. Okay, and up effectively. So we are going to talk to businesses. We're going to go through the platform. If you're looking at purchasing HubSpot or you're using Sales Pro and maybe not getting the most out of it, there'll be so much that we can get through. What we found quite often when we've done these masterclasses is that there's so much that we talk about. So myself and Emma will get together before these webinars and prioritize what we're going to talk about in 30 minutes.
Mm,
And quite often there's so many things that we cut out and just leave out just because
yeah, for
it's
time.
just for time purposes, really. But next month we're going to dedicate an hour, and we are going to go through as much as possible when it comes to Sales Hub. So that's going to be all about that. That's the kind of critical CRM feature, how to use sequencers. We're going to go through and really kind of show you the tool from a
Mm,
demo perspective, like as if you were talking to HubSpot would do. So if you've been using it for a little while, you may have had the demo like 2-3 years ago now, and the tool has changed so much since then as well. So it's good to get an overview of what the tool can do today, really. So details will follow. So look out for those in your email inbox. On the date of that, that's still to be determined. But it will be. I think pretty sure it's the
gonna
two of
be a
us.
good session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, maybe we're going to bring another one in, another person in or not. It's to be decided. So, but so keep your eyes peeled for that one. But yeah, I think that this is probably with that, because with apps and integrations, it's so broad. We could go into individual apps and things like that and talk about them, but ultimately, I think the message for today is use that app marketplace,
Mm,
study that page of that integration. If there's a tool that you want to connect, can it do it?
yeah,
Um, and obviously reach out to someone like ourselves if you need help in actually connecting it.
absolutely.
Um, but that's the message from today. So Mark has asked if there's a recording of today's session. Yes, there is. Okay, that will be sent normally once it's sort of processed and sent out, but normally the next couple of days that will get over to you by.
Yeah,
But yeah, unless anyone has anything else, we'll wrap things up
we'll close
there.
it off there.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. Looking forward to seeing you next month.
yeah. Take care. Thanks for your time today, guys. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.